You've probably heard people say, wait for the crash, or buying a house in the state of Florida right now is definitely the wrong move. But in my opinion, that advice doesn't always match exactly what's happening on the ground at a zip code level. Today, I want to break down 5 real grounded reasons why waiting till 2026 could potentially cost you and your family, and why buying now might just be your smartest move. Number 1 on the list, we'll call Q4 buyers often win. So the time period we're in right now, from October through December, it's interesting because you just have a lot of minutia happening at one time. It's some of my favorite ways to invest is during awkward times. If you think about 3 holidays in a row cascading from Halloween to Thanksgiving into Christmas into the New Year, we have different stuff is on different people's minds. Kids are in school, not everybody can travel right now. A lot of people are just gearing up for next year because they're busy. And then the snowbirds are coming in on top of that. Sellers are looking at this house that's been sitting on the market right now being like, if I wait till January, I'm going to have so much more competition. I just want to be done with this thing. Not everybody's available just to show these houses now or visit them because of those holidays. And then on top of that, you have new construction home builders who have quotas, who want to get rid of stuff for the same reason, but on top of that, they have business tax implications to not doing something before December 31st. They have forecasts they're trying to manage into 2026, gearing up for that, reporting to board of directors, trying to show an indication of what the end of this year is going to be and how to base next year on top of that. So as a buyer in the end of 2025 is already a very heavy inventory leveraged market. You could just kind of like take all of it and just take advantage of it, So I do think you can make a strong case of doing something during awkward times would be very advantageous to individual buyers at the zip code level. And then the one thing I just throw on top of that, as much as anyone that is incentivized to talk about real estate like I do, I'm pretty even as far as how I feel about 26 versus 25. I would never say like, if you don't do it now, you're never getting an opportunity. I do think a lot of 2026, insurance, taxes, interest rates, all of that will not be materially different than what we're talking right now. But to say Q4 to Q4, that's different. So Q4 to Q1, one thing. 12 months apart, 14 months apart, no one knows, right? So like there could be changes. Maybe they don't need to discount things as much. Like who knows what will happen at that point? They'll have a full year to figure that out. Just food for thought when you're working through these decisions. All right, number 2, let's talk rate flexibility, interest rate flexibility, and incentives. So we're going to continue to beat the new construction drum for just a minute. And the idea here is that builders are throwing the absolute house at buyers down in Southwest Florida. So what they're essentially doing is they're trying to remove any negativity to the macro real estate market. If interest rates are high, we'll take care of that for you. If you're cash sensitive, if it's a liquidity thing, then we'll try to remove closing costs and do things that affect the actual cash. If you want to get a win, I mean, that's real for a lot of people. You've been in this market for 3 years, you're getting absolutely taken for a ride. Builders were calling their shots. It was scarce. There's 100 people showing up to an open house. So sellers had leverage. Well, now they don't. So people are back and being like, what can you give me? A lot of people, like, they want their floors, they want their whatever. So if they give you $90,000 to a new home center, then floors don't cost $90,000. You could take care of your kitchen. You could do quartz. They could pay for stuff for you. And they're just going around trying to figure out what matters to certain people. Do you want us to fly you down for free and you can look here? Do you want us to package the house so we'll pick all the design for you and say you pick gold, silver, or bronze? All cool. And a lot of times right now, you can potentially get a little bit of all of it. You can get a little bit interest rate off and then also get some new home incentives. The only thing you want to consider, and no one knows, right, is that these are individual companies that compete with each other trying to figure out what to do themselves, and they can change their mind whenever they want. This is fleeting. So just as a simple example, what if in March there's still a lot of incentives in 26, but what if they don't care about interest rates anymore, or something at the top level, they're choosing to go after something different that they deem more important. And you really want a monthly payment benefit. So you're going after rate, percentages, things that will grossly affect your monthly payment. What if they just want to go supply chain? They just want to give you 50 grand to this, or we'll pay for 50% of your design incentives. Well, that's not going to affect you in $1,000 a month monthly payment. And it could come back, it could go away. But if you don't control the source, then it's not guaranteed. That's one. Number 2, and I would say we're at one of the most buyer leveraged periods I've ever seen when it comes to new construction in Southwest Florida with the density we're working with. Number 2 is there's a very big difference to me if an individual builder, even if it's a national builder, trying to incentivize one buyer or one family at a local level in one area versus the actual real estate market changing. So if interest rates actually drop to everybody, right? I read a study that said that on average, if 1 percentage point of interest rates drop to the world, then it'll add potentially 800,000 plus new buyers that would not have been in the market in individual markets that you're now going to be competing with, versus Pulte in one neighborhood offering you a 3.8% interest rate on a 7-year ARM that you're guaranteed to have that rate versus potentially if your credit score is even like in the middle, you're at 7%, 6.5% right now. That's a very big difference because no one else knows that, right? They're offering it to you, a couple of people, whoever, the 200 homes in that neighborhood, whatever it may be. So one thing to think about would be, weird to say, but in markets of heavy leverage, it makes people get really comfortable. And to say that the minute that these guys don't have to do what they're doing, they're not going to switch it back would be a very, very fragile opinion. All right, my third of 5 points is related to new construction neighborhood release timing. This is a very micro market conversation, but the benefit of Southwest Florida, which kind of like messes up a lot of the real estate dynamic in general, if you're looking at like the country as a whole, is that we have 36% of all of Florida's new construction neighborhoods built in Southwest Florida, which is kind of a small market in the grand scheme of things. And it's not evenly Tampa, Naples, Sarasota. It is the majority functional buying in the Sarasota area, and then it's master planned. So we have like a market where inventory will rise to like 7-8 months. And it's not because people aren't buying, they just don't want the resale stuff, they're buying the other stuff. So it's got to skews like numbers if you're just running them. So it's still a relatively competitive market in the areas that everybody wants to be in, which are like 2 or 3 total. The one thing I could see at the end of this year, really the end of any period, is if specific opportunities come for new construction neighborhoods that didn't exist yet, but people are waiting for them to potentially exist. Because a lot of if a new construction neighborhood's released, there's been rumblings for a great period of time. Like I probably have videos where I was talking about a neighborhood I heard that I didn't know the name of yet that ended up being Wild Blue in Lakewood Ranch, based on what I knew about the lake club and the land across the street and the reps that I'm friends with and stuff like that. I probably talked about like 2-3 years before that was released. So people are kind of waiting. And a lot of buyers that aged the market for 3.5 years. Imagine if you started in 2020 and you missed your opportunity at Esplanade Azario up in Lakewood Ranch or parts of Waterside, and you just were like, it's kind of square peg round hole. I don't really need to do anything. Now you're still here and haven't bought. Or you bought an interim option with like Lennar, and now you're looking to do something higher. Imagine how educated you'd be. So when 2-3 new neighborhoods release, like you don't think there's like hundreds and hundreds of people that have been on that VIP list? That would not be the case. Now, a new neighborhood releases, right? So say something comes out in December. A big one that we don't know if it's going to trickle to 26, but it's called Esplanade Welland Park. The Esplanade brand by Taylor Morrison Homes, national builder, is like their really amenity-rich, beautiful brand at a not crazy price. And it's just like paradise. It looks like a resort. They do a great job with it. They put things out through a brand called Esplanade to do that. It's 55 and up kind of without saying it. They've done many neighborhoods where people have examples so that people know what they're getting when they release a new one. They do about a similar amount of homes, all that kind of stuff. So they're kind of drying up on what they currently have besides this one neighborhood called Sky Ranch. Esplanade Azario has 200 something homes left. It's a golf neighborhood. It's very niche. All the other Esplanades are sold out for the most part. So in this Welland Park, Southern Venice area of the state, they're releasing this new one called Esplanade Welland Park. It's going to be like 800 something homes. It's kind of near a golf course. It's near this new master plan area. And people, when they release it, like the people that are waiting, like they're going to pounce. Now, if they release a neighborhood that has 800 something homes, it's going to take years to sell. I mean, I think at the current clip right now, I don't know if they'll sell 200 homes every 12 months. It'll be something like that. So you got time in the grand scheme. The big point here is that it's phased. So if something released in December and all these people are waiting and they're going to try to get in, they're going to release a certain amount of lots. I don't know if it's going to be 50, 100, whatever it may be. And a lot of times they hold stuff back. They do it in a particular order of what's worked for them in the past. Maybe they spec and do inventory homes for a myriad of them. So if you want to build your own house and they release 50 lots, you're competing with that entire competition. If you like a lot, it's on water, something like that. The angle you want it, fishtails, it's deeper for whatever reason, it has a nice setback, whatever it may be, easement on the side, and you want that, and you're like, this is one of 877 homes, so I'll be fine. What you don't know is when phase 1 sells out, when phase 2 will release, or phase 3. What if all of phase 2, you don't like anything? You could potentially be end of next year with the slow pace of selling right now before you actually get another opportunity at a lot you like. So an individual lot that feels like you have all the time in the world, you don't know by the time the next one comes that you like, how much the market will be different and things will be affected. What if that neighborhood went so crazy they raised all the base prices? Esplanade Azario released in 2021, they were selling individual lots on a lottery eBay style bid. There were people who were buying for $300,000-$400,000. In a normal market would have gone for 50 or been embedded into the base price of the house. You never know if you're going to catch it at the wrong time or the right. So if you're tracking a neighborhood right now, I'd at least take a real serious peek. A reservation, try to look at it real quick. This Oak Bend community that released in Welland Park, Toll Brothers and ICI, there's only 181 homes in there. Esplanade Welland Park, Esplanade at Waterside when it comes out. You need to get real serious about any golf deeds right now in new construction neighborhoods. Get real serious, because all of these things feel abundant now, but when they're gone, are you even going to like the buying proposition at all if you now had to buy a resale in that market? I'm not sure the answer would be yes to that. All right, point number 4, rental pressure and holding costs are real. So I would just off the bat, as a precursor, is I'm not a typical real estate agent in the fact that I would say it's always the best time to buy. Buying a home is the dream and it's the greatest investment of all time and all these kind of things. In certain cases, it can go in that direction. But my background being more in the finance side is I'm letting the numbers point to it. If the numbers don't make sense, then it doesn't make sense. And I'm not going to tell you it does. The thing about buying a house versus renting, a lot of times it's aging that is the real benefit. If you buy decent upfront and most of the money's made there, it's an aging thing. You wait long enough and it starts to make more sense than not. And renting, in theory, you're just paying for nothing. And so all that, you have flexibility and that is a trade-off, whatever. The thing about Southwest Florida is relocation buyers are moving no matter what. They're not on the fence being like, I don't know. They're coming, and they have 2 choices. You can buy or rent. It's a binary decision. I would say if you even remotely think you're going to stay somewhere for 3 years-ish, if it's definitely going to be more than that, even better, then I would really try to figure out the buying before I just rent. I mean, the annualized $50,000, $60,000 that you're going to spend on average to rent someone else's place, let alone the uncertainty of the ability to obtain these rentals in a snowbird-based market and the seller wanting to sell it and all these kind of things aside, just the pure cash. Maybe you have to store your stuff on top of that because you're coming from 5,000 square feet with a basement to 2,000 square feet villa or whatever, double moves, all these kind of things. We're just in a really good spot for you to get into a hard to lose situation, I think. You're getting incentivized, there's discounting on all these kind of things, but like you're getting houses for cheaper than they've been in a long time. You have a lot of new construction that's competing with resales, which makes everything a little cheaper. It's abundant. So if you're saying, well, I'm not just going to jam my way into an area that I don't know if I like or not, the risk is a lot less because, one, it's a mature market where everybody kind of tries to figure out 2 or 3 things and then everything's an offshoot from that. So it feels like a little bit less of a risk. You buy in a market that, to me, the greatest value of all time is if you could sit in a room and argue with anyone that this is the number 1 spot. You don't have to agree, but if you could devil's advocate it, where if people were unbiased and they actually thought about it, you could make a fair argument. And I would say Sarasota, Florida is one of the only places I would say that with unequivocally about. Maybe if you talk about big city, you could say Tampa as a version. But if you said St. Augustine would be better than Sarasota, I think Sarasota has a strong case. Can't say the Panhandle is going to win that argument. I think Naples beats Sarasota if it's one-on-one. So you could really go down that lane. So then you're like, if I just put my money here and waited, Texas isn't going to make Sarasota less valuable. Arizona's not going to do it. It's those kind of things. North Carolina's weird. It has seasonality. I like that on top of it. But let alone all the kind of ways you look at it, right? Say that in 3 years, you're like, I don't quite know. I think you'd be in a position, especially at a 3-year mark, where you'd be fine, right? Your ability to get rid of it's not going to be difficult. If you're suggesting I'm throwing all my cash away at renting, but it's not no cash that's required for buying, right? All that buying money, that deposit, down payment, those closing costs, all the things that go into that ALTA statement, don't go to the house. Yes, absolutely, right? Closing costs are a portion that's not into the house, right? Set aside prepaids for insurance and taxes it is a pre-advanced payment of something that matters. And the principal, some of it's just gone, right? Title, all these things are gone. But we're also in a market where potentially you can really do something about that, right? Use your leverage to get rid of that. Use your leverage to make sure most of your cash affects the house itself. It just hasn't been a lot of times where you knew enough information to say it's not a sure, there's nothing a for sure thing. You could get dangerous with that argument. So all I'd say is that really look at it, because you get into 2-3 years renting and you're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that I don't know if it's down the drain if you just enjoy flexibility and peace of mind. But if you're going on pure economics, 3 years, do a 7-year ARM, get the interest rate bought down to under 4%, get a house at a discount and let it hit a lower priced house than it would have been 2 years ago, and then get them to give you money on top of that, it's interesting. All right, point number 5, the state of Florida to me is not a speculation state, it is a decision one. And this goes a little bit more into the lifestyle lane, which I don't go over a lot. But the fact of the matter is buying now secures the lifestyle. It secures the tax benefits, maybe that property that you really wanted to be in before you go into a spring competition market. And being from Florida my whole life, I'm a little bit removed from this feeling I'm about to describe. But from doing what I'm doing right here for long enough, seeing so many people move from these other states, work their whole lives in that state, had 50 years of winters, and then they get here, 2 to 3 years removed from that purchase, they still walk around like it's fairy tale land every day. It's palm trees, it's sunshine, let alone the functionality. Like if you like outdoors, pools, stuff like that, you have a pool in Massachusetts, you can't use that all year round. I don't even know how many months you'd realistically get without a heater. Now, imagine going like empty nester, which a lot of our clients are over 50. So you say, I'm going to this paradise I've been dreaming of. I have optionality and functionality. I mean, on Christmas Day, you can go to the beach in Sarasota. 300 plus days a year of utilization of outdoor stuff. And then now I also have free time because I'm not going there to work. And so it just all collides where people don't really lose that feeling. They kind of ride that wave the rest of the way. So as much as I go after the numbers-based stuff, and it's always going to be heavily, I would never give this advice if it didn't also be backed by your money's right and the lifestyle's right. But part of this in Southwest Florida is qualitative, and you can't get around it. What is that other January in New Jersey going to do to you versus the $4K extra that you're negotiating with the builder, where if they say no and you're like, this is BS, you're going to really stay for an entire 4 month in another state? I think this is one of the rare areas where this really does weigh into an actual formula that would go into the decision-making process. All right, and as a quick bonus here before we wrap the video, I wanted to just give you kind of like a playbook of what I would do with my own family if I was relocating right now, if it would make any sense. Because a lot of people will say, when they go into this journey, they'll say, this is my price, or they'll start in an area and just try to jam their way in there. So they'll pigeonhole to an area and then they'll say, what could I do within that? And it really just leaves a lot of information. I think there's a little easier way. Is I'd be trying, if you were talking to me, I would be trying to get just a little bit of detail that then I could take and show you all of the different parts of town that you could do that in. No one has, you might have 5 different things you should look at. No one has 10 options that they're realistically comparing apples to apples. If you're like, all right, I have 2 kids, I probably need a little bit over 3,000 square feet based on how we live now. I know we have a basement now, we don't really need that anymore, etc. You can maybe say your price point's this, but more importantly, you're like, I saw this neighborhood called Monterey in Lakewood Ranch, and I like it. Toll Brothers seems to be like a little nicer. You don't have to really go custom. But they also look like they have bigger lots. That right there of you thinking you like something tells me a lot about price point, and it tells me a lot about style, and then also lets me take it and run with the areas. So then I would take that and say, okay, great. Monterey is located in this lower Lakewood Ranch area. It's called Waterside. And so that's a certain lifestyle it achieves. Great, like that's a good kickoff point. Well, the other thing you'd want to look at in there is called Shellstone. There's a builder called Homes by Town. That's kind of your 1-2 punch. So it allows you to do 2 different things in the same area and achieve that lifestyle. We could cross the bridge when we get to it, but these 2 neighborhoods and all of Waterside are actually located in the Sarasota County part of Lakewood Ranch. The rest is Manatee, which is not relevant to you now, but that little line, that one street, materially affects the public schools. So we might need an option above that line too, which would change a lot of the Waterside lifestyle. We'll park that for a minute. So then what you want to do there, if you're looking at Lower Lakewood Ranch, the one other thing you want to look at, just to no regrets, or just to see it if you haven't seen it, is this area called Welland Park, southern Venice, Florida. So it's basically like a smaller boutique coastal version in some ways to Lakewood Ranch. Gives you a lot of similarities. They built a new neighborhood called Oak Bend there. So that is Toll Brothers again, a little different product, but then they have this semi-custom guy that's actually like relatively affordable. There's another cool one called Palmera. So Oak Bend's only 181 homes. You can walk to the downtown and the spring training facility. It's like pretty interesting. There's a new high school they're building there that opens next year, depending on your kids' ages, which will also be an elementary school there. And you're talking a mile away. So that's kind of cool if you're into that. 18 minutes to 4 different beaches. So what Shellstone is to Lakewood Ranch, Palmera, that builder builds the same product in this other one. So it allows you to go 2 different places and have one constant. And then if you do that, then you just want to go right in the middle. So there's a community called Sky Ranch in central Sarasota. This is because these are in 3 different locations. And so you can use 5 neighborhoods to learn the whole process. So if you had that short list, if you got real dangerous with that, like any other question you have, you could solve based on that. And so you take that list and you say, is there any viability to signing a contract this year? Because they'll get all these advantages I'm talking about. It's not a finished house, it's a signed house. It's a starting the process. If for any reason it's not, right? If the school, because you got a school timing and stuff in my scenario, but if for any reason it's a square peg round hole, that would be my decision to wait right there. The people that need to wait are just like, if something's not compelling enough to do something now. I wouldn't say, I would not buy right now because you're never gonna get another opportunity again in most cases. It's more of like, if you don't need to wait, why wait? And also you're gonna get money that you might not get next year and all these kind of things. If anything feels weird or rushed or any of that, just wait. And this kind of process would allow you to do that, but it's not for lack of information that you waited or that you were busy or these kind of things. You would need to do what I'm suggesting anyway. If you do a speed version at the very least, it's going to help you next year as well. All right, folks, that's a wrap for today's video. I hope it helped you maybe clarify timing, working through decisions, whatever you're trying to do at the moment. If you liked it, please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the like button. That's the best way to see what's coming next. You might also want to grab, we have these 2 really interesting guides in the link below. This is the new Florida relocation guide. It basically is like a lifestyle first approach of saying, if you're trying to achieve this, you're going across the whole state of Florida, this is how the juxtaposition of all the areas that people are looking at exist: family, retiree-centric, most affordable. So they work for multiple purposes, basically. Another really cool one, if you're especially into the new construction world, is we have a new home buyer guide. So it goes really after, like we created this, we manually made this map, which takes newhomesource.com of the density of 1,500 neighborhoods to pick from. It makes it way more feasible to work through. And then we kind of walk through favorite neighborhoods around the state. We break down individual custom builders, production builders, all that kind of stuff. So that's an interesting one as well. We have a fantastic newsletter. I think one of the best things we put out is an email report. It's 2 times a month, every 14 days. And this is going to not only be shorter form, more consumable stuff, but we have our favorite quick move-ins at the moment across multiple neighborhoods. We have the best new home incentives if you could pick one across multiple neighborhoods, what communities you should look at if you're looking at others, and things like that. And then, of course, if it's 6 months from now, 24 months from now, anywhere in between, if I can assist you in any way in the Southwest Florida real estate market, we would love the chance to do so, even a conversation. So if any of that's relevant, please consider reaching out and engaging with the links in the description box below. And as always, thanks so much for consuming my content. We'll see you on the next one.